Here's something that no one really thinks about. Your team's best AI workflow is stuck in one person's head right now. And every day it stays there, your whole team works slower and more efficiently than it has to. Picture this, a teacher on your team figures out the exact way to get Claude to write lesson plans, which include best practices, standards, reading level, and so on. Every time she needs to create a new lesson plan, she jumps right back into the same chat, which works great for her. But there's one problem. It only works for her because it's buried in her chat history. The second someone else on her team wants to build something similar, they have to go through the whole flow again and build a skill from scratch or somehow get her to send the skill to them. And this is the exact problem we can solve with an MCP server. So in the next few minutes, I'm building one live, hosted on Supabase, wired into Claude, backed by a real database. So one person's skill becomes a tool that the entire team's AI can use, and a way for everyone to keep improving it together instead of just each person reinventing the wheel from scratch. And the best part is it's not just for teachers. You can extend this to any work where collaboration exists, like marketing skills, accounting skills, and legal skills. Even better, you'll have this entire setup done in the next 10 minutes. So I'll also give you some tips if you want to get this to scale. Let's dive in. Okay, so to begin, I put together this guide that you can go through. I've got it linked below. If you want to follow along with this video, we're going to be doing a simpler version of this. But this guide that I put together also includes OAuth security and authentication so that everything is a little bit more secure and production ready. For the purposes of this video, we're just going to strap it together and get it working so that you can see how the flow of skills works from Claude or any AI agent to the database and to the rest of your team. So let's dive in. The first thing that we want to do is create a new project on Supabase. I suggest you do this first because it takes some time to spin up. I'm just going to create one here. The password's not super important. You can just generate one and copy it and leave it in your clipboard for the time being. Enable automatic RLS. This just makes sure that any application that shouldn't access certain rows and or tables within your database won't have access to those rows and tables. So while that's spinning up, I want to show you a little bit about what the code looks like, because if you decide to kind of use the repo that I've put together to build this yourself, you can take the entire repo, go into Claude Code or any AI agent of choice, and then ask it to modify it for whatever use case you have. So for example, you can say, I have this teaching skills shared repo, modify it to be marketing, for example. So the first thing we're going to do, if you want to build this from scratch or you want to see how I built it, I put together a prompt that I use for building this. You can copy and paste this prompt into Claude Code and it'll build basically the exact same thing for you. Obviously, AI agents are non-deterministic, so anytime it builds, it'll probably build it slightly different than what I have here. So if you want the security and peace of mind knowing that whatever you're building works, you can just copy it and clone the repo. Otherwise, if you want to start from scratch, feel free to paste in the this entire prompt into Claude Code and it'll start building it for you. And if you want to modify the output, you can modify the prompt accordingly. The first thing I want to take a look at really quickly is the function. The function is where your MCP will live. Edge functions on Supabase are similar to Lambda functions on AWS if you're familiar with serverless technology. If you're not, that's absolutely okay. You don't need to know. The best way of understanding it is a slice of functionality that lives somewhere on a server that you don't have to manage. The server only racks up charges anytime there's an invocation. Invocation just means anytime someone requests that specific endpoint. In our case here, our MCP will live as an edge function, and anytime someone accesses that MCP via their AI agent, it'll invoke that edge function that's hosted on Supabase. The great thing for us is that we don't have to do any server or infrastructure management here. Supabase will take care of it all for us. You'll see the different MCP resources and tools that we have access to and all of the code that's here. It's all written in Deno, which is a framework that's similar to Node.js. You don't need to know how to write Deno. I don't know how to write Deno. I know how to write TypeScript and Node.js or JavaScript, but Deno I'm still not familiar with, but it's not necessary. The reason it needs to be written in Deno is because Supabase Edge functions use Deno. So the next thing that I want to talk about really quickly are migrations. Migrations are just a fancy way of saying apply this SQL to a database. Because we're going to be using a database to hold all of our skills, we want to run a bunch of SQL queries to set up our database. In the future, if you wanted to have a more complex data pattern or access pattern or relationship management between all of your data, you can create a new migration with a new SQL that'll override and or change and or include / add more functionality to your database. In our case here, we just have an initialization migration. And the reason you want to stack migrations on top of each other instead of rewriting the previous one is so that you have version control and a history so that you know how to reconstruct your database if you ever need to, and or revert changes if that's something that you need to do. This migration pattern is a common pattern in software engineering for relational database management systems. Great, so now that our Supabase is set up, you might have had to wait about 5 minutes or so for this to run, which is why I said to do it first. We're going to be logging into the Supabase CLI directly from our console. Now, you can do almost everything that we're going to be doing here today without using the console or the CLI, but I like using the CLI for the purposes of being able to replicate it and or do deployment as code in the future. So the first thing we're going to do is open up a terminal, and we're going to paste in Supabase Login. And then it'll prompt us to open Supabase authentication page. It gives us a verification code. We can go ahead and enter that, and then it'll allow us to log in successfully, which is great. The next thing that we want to do is link our project. So it's just Supabase link project ref, and then you put in your project reference here. The project reference is this long string. Right, so you can copy that, paste it in, and you've successfully linked your project. Now, another really great benefit of using Supabase within the CLI is once you've connected the MCP for Supabase to your AI agent, it can take care of all the infrastructure for you. So it's a really good practice to make sure if you are using Supabase for your infrastructure to get that all set up successfully so that anytime you are coding in the future, let's say, for example, you wanted to extend this and create another database table or whatever, but you didn't want to have to manage it yourself, you could ask your MCP or your AI agent to interact with the Supabase MCP with this Supabase CLI, and it'll do everything for you. The next thing we're going to do is Supabase DB push. So this just allows us to push all of the migrations up to Supabase and apply them to the table. I just had to do a little credential thing on my laptop there. You'll see here after I punch that in, you may get the same warning. It'll give me the option to apply it, and we can verify that the migration has applied successfully by going back to Supabase, going into table, and seeing that now our table exists with our schema that we had in our Supabase migration, which is great. The next thing we're going to do is generate a team token. For this MCP server build, it is very simple. We're just going to be using one token that we can pass around to people. It's almost like a contained login, if you will. In the future, if you do follow the instruction or the guide that I put together, it'll have a more comprehensive authentication or authorization system, and it's using OAuth 2.1 to accomplish that, which will have you be able to manage different accounts. But for the complexity or for the simplicity of this build, we're going to skip that complexity and just focus on just having something simple. So this is the code to run it. I'll include that code also, or a slice of a script inside of the description below. It's included inside of the repo if you want to find it there. But essentially all we're doing here is creating a token, and we're doing using OpenSSL in order to create this token. And we're going to copy and paste this token somewhere that we can hold on to for later because we're going to need it. So copy and paste this token somewhere. We can save it for now, and then we'll refer back to that. So the next thing that we want to do is Supabase secrets set. We're going to tell Supabase that this secret exists. So copy and paste this command, which I'll also include for you, and then you can copy this, the token, and then make sure it's within the quotation marks here. And then you want to provide your Supabase reference as well. This was the same string that we had before. And then finally, our service role key. You can find that from going to project settings and then going to API keys, and then you'll find it under legacy anon service role API keys, and you'll find the service role key here. I'm going to reveal this. This is okay. I'm going to delete this project after, so don't worry about the security for this, but this is the service role key is something that you shouldn't be sharing. It's a sensitive key, and if someone gets their hands on it, it gives them the opportunity to basically do anything they want with your Supabase project, which is not what we want. So let's go ahead and paste this in, press enter. Remember, this goes into the terminal. It sets all the secrets successfully, which is great. And you can tell this by going into edge functions on the left-hand side, go into secrets, and you can see your team token here, which is great. So we've made sure that the service role key is set and the team token is set. So I think everything is good to go now. The last thing that we want to do is deploy our MCP function. So we're going to clear this. Supabase functions deploy MCP, no verify JWT. The reason we don't do no verify JWT is because we're not going to be using authentication for this. We're authenticating using the token. In the build that I put together under blueprints, you would not include no verify JWT, which was what you'll see there when you're building it. Now, again, for sanity, you can go into the functions under edge functions, and then refresh, and you'll see that the new function exists now. So MCP exists right here. You can click into it and you can see all of the code that we put together to deploy that. So we were able to get everything done infrastructure-wise using Supabase CLI right within our terminal. Now, I do want to remind you that everything that we're doing here is on the CLI, and it does sound a little bit complicated, and maybe the idea of using commands may sound a little bit intimidating, but it's a lot simpler than you think. And also, most of this you can do directly from the panel itself, the Supabase panel. All you need to do is set the secret. Like, for example, if you wanted to set the secret, you would go here and you create new secret, save, create a new one. The function, you would go here, deploy a new function. The table, you would go here and then, you go to SQL editor and then paste in your migration here. It's just a lot more manual steps and potentially opens up the avenue for incorrect pasting, copying and pasting, or not doing the right thing. Especially with the functions, you would have to package up the function together in order to deploy all of the code. It's just easier if you deploy it from the CLI. And or if you want to, you can use an AI agent to do it for you. So you can have Claude code on the side, give it the script or the deployment commands that I've given you here, and then tell it to do everything for you, and it'll probably just do it all for you as long as you connect the Supabase MCP. And that's it. All we need to do now is hook this up to Claude, and you'll start to see it running. So let's do that now. Okay, so when you jump into Claude, you can go and create a new chat and then click the little plus button and then the connectors, and you can click manage connectors. I've got a bunch of connectors here already, stuff that I've been testing and playing around with. All you do here is click add, but you may not have any if this is one of your first times using Claude, and that's okay. All you need to do here is click add on the top right, add custom connector. We're just gonna call this teaching MCP, and then we're gonna paste in the long string, this long string here. So it's your Supabase project URL. So this is the reference that we got originally. We can grab that again from project overview, grab the same one. I mean, you can copy and paste these somewhere so you have them to use and refer back to them. And then finally, it's the team token. This is the secret one that we created using OpenSSL from our terminal, and we pasted it right here. So I'm gonna copy this one again, and it has the equal sign after it. Usually most of them do. And I'm gonna replace the team token with that entire secret token here. Go ahead and click add, and you'll see it tests the connection. And just like that, you've been able to connect your very own first MCP to Claude without much effort at all. It was like a couple commands, and you could just click a couple things on Supabase if you didn't want to do the commands. Like, it's super simple. And that's the whole build. One skill wrapped as a tool shared across your entire team's Claude. Nobody has to dig through someone else's chat history again. And a quick note, if you're taking this further, once you're beyond the one skill and into a handful of them, the database structure and the tool descriptions are where most teams get sloppy in production. Get those two right early, and scaling this to 10 different skills is the same amount of work as scaling it to 2. Additionally, you may want to think about better authentication and row-level security for when people connect from their AI agents of choice. So here's a question for you. Are you building skills right now? If so, which one have you gotten the most mileage from? If you like this build, drop a like and subscribe below because more builds like this are coming soon. See you in the next one.